Welcome back, everybody, to Big Apple Hockey. It is great to have you guys back. It's a day that we're never going to forget, and we're always going to remember. It's also my bachelor parties this weekend, Anthony. I'm getting married in 59 days. I can't believe that one either. So a lot of mixed emotions today. We're going to go through all those today. I, of course, am your host, Marc Williams. And delighted that we are going to be starting a brand new season of NHL hockey very soon. Brought back with the writer from the Hockey News, Mr. Anthony LaRocco. Sorry, Anthony, I was trying to get grander in my entrance for you.
I was going to say, you're right there. You should be concerned.
I got my wires crossed. So, Anthony, go ahead.
No, yeah. Like you mentioned, 9/11. Can't believe it's been 23 years. I was 16 years old when it happened, so time is certainly going by, but most importantly, they are never forgotten. So definitely a somber day today, but and then as you can see behind me, we still pay tribute to Johnny Gaudreau and his brother, who were laid to rest this past Monday. And what was a beautiful and heartbreaking ceremony and service, I should say. And Marc, when not before we get started, but not to get too far off topic, but when Meredith Gaudreau was eulogizing her husband and Matthew, when she announced that she as well as her sister-in-law Madeline is pregnant, I mean, I lost it. I mean, that's it just kept getting worse and more sad. So, but that was definitely a poignant moment, and still feel for that whole family.
Yeah, Monday, I believe it was when we heard that, and it was probably a biggest gut punch. I mean, you already being a father, me getting married, looking forward to starting a family at some point. It's one of those things that hearing that I can never imagine leaving my fiance in that situation, and it's devastating. It's a gut punch. And I really don't want to judge somebody in the court of public opinion, but I don't need to finish that sentence. So we'll just leave it at that. And Anthony, going to the other thing you brought up, I was 22 years old. I was getting ready for work. I woke up late. I walked in the shower about 9:15. My brother knocked on the door and said, a plane crashed in the World Trade Center. At the time, I kind of tossed it off because I was at the World Trade Center and when I was in 6th grade. And you learned that it's been able to withstand if certain sizes of planes and stuff like that, if it ever got crashed into. So, I mean, I thought about it, and then I heard a second plane hit the other tower, and then you knew somebody was doing this to us.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. It was terrifying for me back then, certainly for you, because both of us probably thought we were getting drafted. That's one thing that they talked about, reinstituting the draft. And by the time it ended up getting to Mike Piazza hitting the home run 10 days later, and watching hated rivals, the Mets and the Braves, shaking hands on the field. The first event was actually a hockey game. It was Eric Lindros's debut with the New York Rangers. And then the iconic opening day shot of Marc Messier with the fireman's hat on. Like there's a lot of things that conjure up, and you have to talk about it because, Anthony, people that weren't there 23 years ago, they don't know it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know. So, guys, we're going to start, and the A block, of course, is sponsored by Seat Geek. Sorry, I'm a little still broken up about that. Use the promo code BigAppleHockey for $20 off your first order. Anthony, there's too much juxtapositions we've been having in the last couple of broadcasts. And we're going to be giving away some of these shirts today, the Big Apple Hockey shirts. So stay tuned for that. And also, I got a Big Apple Hockey jersey. So everybody, thanks for joining us today. Make sure I'll tell you the instructions on that in a little bit. All right. Anthony, we are starting, of course, with the New York Islanders. We have burning questions since the season is going to come up. And one of the questions that I had, we did use it for our bar talk statement, but I kind of gave a little bit more I guess, specific and generalized language for this one. But my first question to you, going into the New York Islanders season, will Ilya Sorokin rebound to Vezina form? Because he was a guy that a lot of people thought was going to probably take home the Vezina trophy last year, and last year was not what we thought we were going to get out of him. Go ahead, Anthony.
Well, yeah, because 2 years ago, he was the runner-up, and if it weren't for Linus Ullmark doing his best Hasek impersonation, Sorokin would have took home the Vezina that year. But so the Elliot Friedman kind of raised some eyebrows last week in his 32 Thoughts podcast when he had reported that he heard that Ilya Sorokin was battling something. Those were his words, and that his agent didn't comment on it, and obviously the Islanders didn't either. So that kind of stirred up some controversy. But Matt Martin had his annual charity poker foundation last night, and Ilya Sorokin was there. He looked fine, and my kind of thought process is if Ilya Sorokin was battling some sort of serious mental health issue, certainly would not be at that event. On the flip side, if he was had some sort of injury that had the potential to be long term, again, he would not be there. Now, could he have something minor that you don't wear anything or you couldn't tell to the naked eye? Sure, but if that's the case, again, it's very minor and it's not an issue. So put that all together, my assumption is that he's just fine. And if it is something, it's just maybe some sort of issue he had with training and he's day-to-day at worst. But, no, I think once the season starts, we talked about this in Bar Talk, like you mentioned. Ilya Sorokin is going to bounce back, and I wouldn't, doubt him to have a Vezina-type season. He's been dominant every year since he's been in the NHL. 2 years in a row, he was in the top 5 in every major statistical category for goaltenders. So last season was a one-off. And even that, I mean, he had a .909 save percentage, which that's not terrible. Like, so, I think he's going to bounce back. I think he's going to be just fine. And I think he's going to, be one of the Islanders' most important players this season.
Yeah, Anthony, I think you said it best. And one of the reasons why we all kind of just tossed it off when we talked about this in Bar Talk, but unfortunately, it's still something that you have to talk about. Now, you mentioned the save percentage right there, 909 save percentage and a 3.01 goals against. That tells me the defense let him down more than anything else. Like when the shots were getting to him, he did his job.
He faced the most shots out of any goaltender in the National Hockey League last season.
Yeah. So what I thought was a little bit I'm trying to figure out the best way to describe it, because my personal opinion, you go with your guy. And Patrick Waugh, familiar with Semyon Varlamov, went with him. He was very good down the stretch. No problem with that. But then when the playoffs came around, Varlamov, basically it was his show the entire time. And Sorokin got game 3. You could argue maybe 1, maybe 2 bad goals in that one. Maybe. I'm just saying maybe. And they pulled him. And then we're left with that image. Both of us were agreeing on that of he's going to be fine. That's sort of the last image Islander fans had of Sorokin. He's mentally tougher than that. And if he rebounds, that means great news for the New York Islanders, obviously, because they need that backbone. Because there's another issue I have sort of with the Islanders, but that's going to be on question number 1. I'll get to you with that one. Let's go to number 4, because one great thing to report about last season was the growth of Noah Dobson. 8th in Norris voting last year, 70 points on the season. Will Noah Dobson actually throw his hat into the Norris race?
Well, I mean, he finished with 70 points, which is outstanding. But there was a point in time for pretty much the majority of the whole year, because he only really he only really tailed off offense in his terms of his offensive production the last month or so of the season. For the longest time, he was on pace to be a point per game, like 82, 80, 81, 82 points. And then he kind of got burnt out. You know, if you remember, Ryan Pollock and Adam Pelech were both out at the same time for a decent amount of time. So Noah Dobson was making up their minutes by playing penalty kill, which he normally didn't shoulder the load on. Even strength, he was an absolute workhorse. So I think over time of trying to fill those roles with Pelech and Pollock both out, I think later in the season that came back to bite him a little bit as he got tired as the season wore on. So I would say, I mean, this as far as the specifically the Norris race, it's tough to say because obviously you're gonna have Cale Makar there, you're gonna have Quinn Hughes, Roman Yossi, Adam Fox, but
Miro Heiskanen.
Yeah, Evan Bouchard, who was a point per game defenseman. So there's a lot of really good defensemen in the NHL. For Noah Dobson to win the Norris, he'd probably have to have at least 80 points because Hughes and Makar are going to have likely even more than that. So, I mean, technically, Mark, he did get Norris votes this year. Granted, it was probably
eighth. He got 8th. That's still damn good.
So yeah, I mean, if you're implying he's going to be top 3, I mean, I don't know. All I know is he's one of the best young defensemen in the NHL, and he's only getting better. So take that as you will. It's going to be hard for him to win Norris with how many good defensemen there are. But when you're talking young offensive defenseman, he's one of the best in the game.
Yeah, 24 years old, Anthony, and he finished right there with Josh Morrissey, who had a great season. Victor Hedman, who's Victor Hedman. We all know what he is. Evan Bouchard, great season. Adam Fox, a down season for him, and yet 4th in voting. Cale Makar, great season. Roman Yossi, great season. Like, there's a good crop of NHL defensemen. And when you consider he got more votes than Miro Heiskanen, who he's another guy that you never know. He might get his first Norris any day. I'm just saying, throwing his hat in the ring. I mean, it's a tall order to ask the kid, hey, can you go out there and win it? Imagine if he did win it. He'd be the first Norris Trophy winner for the Islanders since Potvin?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. And how about that one? All right. Anthony, let's go to the 2 new additions, because it's funny. With the Islanders, you kind of focus a little bit more on the bottom 6. They got 2 additions to the top 6 potentially. What will Siprikov and Anthony Duclair bring to that top 6?
Well, we know Anthony Duclair is going to bring much needed skill and speed to the lineup. That's the thing. He's fast. He's a skilled player. He's a guy that can score 25 goals. When he's in the right situation, playing on the top line, he could bring even more than that. I mean, he has hit, I think, 30 at least once in his career. So,
yes.
Anthony Duclair is going to be a big addition to the Islanders lineup. I think he's going to slot in with Horvat and Barzal on the top line to start the season and see how they fare with their chemistry. And I think he's going to improve that top line immensely because if you remember this past season, it was a little bit of a revolving door in that top line on the left side. It was Lee there for a while. At the end of the year, it was Cizikas mixed in there in the middle. We're experiments. Hudson Fasching and a cup of tea there, and they tried a lot of different things. They even had the time period where they loaded up and they went Nelson, Horvat, and Barzal, and they were very good together. But Duclair is going to be a steady presence on that left side, and he's going to make that top line complete now, where you're going to have 3 players that are dangerous on the ice and that can hurt you with their various, bags of trick they have in their skill set with their speed, stick handling, shooting ability. Siprikov is a little bit as we mentioned, he's a little bit of a wild card. Obviously, no one has seen him play at the NHL level. It's going to be his first year in North America. What we do know is that he scored 31 goals last year for Spartak in the KHL. He's a big body. He's more along the lines of power forward, but he skates well. He's got good hands. And he uses his size to get to the net. So how his game will translate to the NHL, I mean, again, we don't know. We'll get our first glimpse of him in training camp and see what he's like. But, I go back to my conversation with former Islander Shane Prince that I spoke with after the Islanders signed Siplikov because they were teammates together. And, he said that, it's been a long time coming for this guy to get a chance in the NHL. He said he's not your typical, Russian player who kind of is like a perimeter player. He works hard, he said, in practice. He does everything he has to do to get to the net to score goals. And then he thinks he's gonna make a really good NHL player. So we'll see if that holds true. But if Siplikov can come in to the island and score 15 to 20 goals, that's a win. If he produces any more than that, 25, 30, and is more closer to a guy like Kuzmenko, not in terms of style of play, they're two totally different players, but in terms of production, and that's just great. That's gravy. But I think if Siplikov plays on that second line with Palmieri and Nelson, which is what the guess is right now, while we'll be putting him in a good spot to have success. So hopefully, he hits the ground running and he could be a contributor. Because if he is, then that changes the game for the Islanders' top six. Now all of a sudden, it's a real formidable group.
That does change a lot with the Islanders. And yes, he is a total wild card. I think you actually said the right number. You say 20 goals, you take that and you run if you're the Islanders. And above that is gravy by all means. Because we're expecting him to be a little bit closer to Kuzmenko's production. And again, we say that with quotes, guys, rather than Nikita Gutsev, who didn't really pan out with the Jersey Devils.
He had Gusev's first year in the NHL. He had like 45 points roughly. So that's not bad. If Siplikov produces, 20 for 40 points, again, you take that. Anything extra is even better. But keep in mind with Siplikov, Mark, there were 12 plus NHL teams that were in the mix for Siplikov, and the New York Rangers were one of them. So there were a lot of teams after this guy. So that says something. The fact that he chose the Islanders obviously is great for Islander fans. So we'll see what happens in training camp in about a little more than a week's time.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit curious though which line he's going to be on. I don't think it's necessarily a slam dunk he stays on that Nelson Palmieri line. I think he could go to the top line, but we're going to see about that one. Yeah, like you said, Duclair is the guy that's going to get the first shot on that one. Get more speed with Matt Barzal with him on the wing. Anthony, one other question, and this is among one of the more important questions because we still believe, me and you, that there isn't that much of a question here, but it still needs to be asked as well. What is Brock Nelson's future with the New York Islanders? He's going into the final year of his contract. He's a very loyal guy. I'd be shocked if he signs elsewhere. But if the Islanders dip out of the playoff picture, could they actually be sending him somewhere else?
Yeah, I would say being that Lou didn't sign him to an extension this offseason, that does open the door to the scenario of where the Islanders, if they are out of it come trade deadline time, it would make sense to move him to get assets for him because you don't want him to leave for nothing. Even despite his age, you still don't want to have this guy, walk out the door for nothing on July 1st. So I would say, if he's not signed to a contract extension by the trade deadline and the Islanders and it's looking like they're not making the playoffs, you have to trade him. You do because you can't risk losing him. With that said, you did mention Marc. Brock Nelson is a loyal guy. He's been on the island his whole career. He's seen how it went for other guys like, Josh Bailey got traded and then got bought out. Matt Martin left once and didn't work out. He came back. So he's been around these guys that were also longtime Islanders. His home's here. I think if Lou Lamoriello wants to keep him, I would say it's 100% chance that he resigns. I don't think it's an issue of him pondering, I want to go elsewhere. If he's wanted, believe me, he's going to be a New York Islander for life. The question is the direction that the team goes this season is going to dictate that. Because again, if they're going to miss, if it's looking like they're going to miss the playoffs and he's not signed, I think you have to move him and get something for him. So that's just my take. And then lastly, Mark, remember, he could also still sign. I mean, the season hasn't started yet. Guys signed before camp, right? I mean, Barzell signed his contract extension right. It was like right at the end of camp. Or it might have been the day before, the day after camp started, he signed his deal. So that's also, still in the cards. But my guess is they let the season play out and see what happens. But I tend to lean on the fact that Brock Nelson's going to be an Islander for the rest of his career.
Yeah, Brock Nelson has taken pay cut after pay cut to be a New York Islander. And then the best part about it is he's outperformed that contract. Now, my take on that is usually if a guy's outperforming his contract and you're going to re-sign him, you then might have to pony up a little bit extra. And that might happen. I don't know. I don't think Brock's going to go out of his way, demand the big money or a long-term deal. I worry about the one dumb owner philosophy of maybe there's a team that's maybe a little bit further ahead with cap space next year, and then they just go after him. Because if you could get Brock Nelson on your team the way he's performing right now, Anthony, he has been one hell of a player after the age of 30. And I can't explain that. Usually guys start slowing down about this age. He's in his prime. He's like Doc Holliday at Tombstone. Not me. I'm in my prime. And you gotta love the way that he's been playing. I think he's gonna end up on Team USA eventually at the end of this for the Four Nations tournament. I think push comes to shove, he stays. I think it's also a little bit of a far stretch to say the Islanders going to be out of playoff contention, and we're going to get into more of that in a minute. But that is still a question at the moment, and it's one that still needs to be answered, and time will tell on it. All right, and Anthony, the last one is number one, and it's what will Patrick Waugh be in his first full season with the New York Islanders? Now, Waugh, if you go to his coaching record, he was 52, 22, and 8 with the Colorado Avalanche and was amazing. They were the number one seed in the West at that time. Then he never finished higher than 6th. He finished 3rd with the Islanders last year, 2012 and 5. And you have to wonder what's exactly. It's funny, Anthony, because the one thing the Islanders don't have right now is the identity line. And that's my question. What is the Islanders' identity? What are they going to hang their hat on? They were only a +6 in goal differential after he took over. So I'm going to cede the floor to you for right now.
Well, I think Patrick Waugh did a phenomenal job coming in mid to late January, taking over the team that was floundering, and he got him into the playoffs. You got to remember, he hadn't coached in the NHL for quite some time. So I think, people underestimate how hard it is when you go that long between coaching in NHL. And in the meantime, you've been coaching, junior kids, 15, 16 years old. You come in mid-season and, you can't really put your stamp on the team because there's not a lot of time to make real wholesale changes to the system, and really be able to implement the way you want your team to play. Yeah, sure, you can make tweaks and say you want them to do this, you want them to do that, but at that point in the year, there's not a whole lot of practice time. So you're very limited in what you could do. Despite that, the Islanders did see a change in their style of play. They were a faster team. They played with more pace. They cut down significantly on the shots on goal that they were allowing every night. And they got into the playoffs. So I think Waugh, with a full camp, to really, really put his stamp on this team, I think he's going to make a real big difference come, October and the way that the Islanders play. As far as their identity, yes, they don't have the identity line per se. But I think their identity is still going to be that kind of that workman's mentality where you kind of grind away at the other team, force them to make mistakes, and when they do, you capitalize. But the difference is that kind of Trotz had them playing that way, but much more defensive minded. Wah has them with that mentality, but that kind of attack mindset, and never take your foot off the gas and play with much more pace. So I think they're going to be an interesting team to watch this season. And, I'll say this, full season of Wah, don't be surprised if the Islanders have success this season, that his name is in the Jack Adams conversation for Coach of the Year. That's the type of impact I think that he can have on the Islanders this coming season.
I wouldn't be surprised, and I think he did win the Jack Adams his first year with the Avalanche, if I'm correct, right?
I got to check on that. He might have.
Yeah, I think he did. That was the 2013, 2014 season. So while we're checking on that one, there were a couple things about going with the comparison about Barry Trotz to them. There are times where, because with Patrick Waugh, he doesn't mind being outshot. He's not a Corsi guy. It's whatever. Go ahead, have the puck. That was something that kind of lingered on with a lot of his teams before that. With Barry Trotz, the Islanders would just outwork you in the offensive zone, and then end up getting the lead and shutting you down. They gave you nothing in the third period. Last season, there was a plague with the Islanders of losing third period leads. And it did trickle into the Wah era and even into the playoffs when they lost game 2 in Carolina. Think of how different that series would have been if the Islanders won that game. Because then you're talking about 2-2 going back to Carolina for game 5. But Carolina flexed their muscle and won that game in regulation. Anthony, you look at this team, and you used to have for the last couple of years, guys were asking questions. What's Matt Barzal's future? Is he ever going to really show that he's a superstar player? 80 points last year. Noah Dobson, 70 points. They had 330 goal scorers for the first time since 1994. Those are all great indicators that the Islanders are there. People want to. There are people that want to project them for 6th, Anthony. I can't agree with that. They're not going to be a bad team. They're going to be very competitive, and they could be anywhere from. Well, you know what? The ceiling, like I think you said it best a couple times last year. They don't blow some of those games, at least 8 overtime losses when they led in the third period, yep. And it didn't matter who they played, because it was the New York Rangers, who were number 1 in the league, or the San Jose Sharks, who were number 32. And, the Islanders win 8 of those games. Then they're just a stone's throw away from the division lead. So I don't think it's far-fetched to say that the Islanders could be anywhere from in the standings. I mean, they're not going to be in last. Let's get that one straight.
No.
And yeah, I just want to be clear about that one. But there are some factors that you got to consider with that. We want to hear some of your comments about or your questions on the Islanders. So, guys, throw them all down there below. I mean, I think Anthony is an optimist because there's good reason for him to be an optimist.
I wasn't being an optimist. He said that when I was talking about Watch. True, the guy's going to have a full training camp to really implement his system. And if you think that him coming in January was enough time for him to get the Islanders to play that he truly wants them to play, you're sadly mistaken, because I could guarantee you the way the Islanders played last season isn't going to be how they play this season, with Wah having his a full year at the helm.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you on that one, Anthony, because the one thing he had going for him is he's Patrick Wah. He goes to the room, everybody listens, and he's not afraid to tell you to shut up.
No, you're right.
And you gotta figure a better year out of that defense. And of course, how we doing, Matt? And you're gonna have Scott Mayfield back and healthy. That's going to help matters. You got to hope that.
I mean Mayfield similar to Trouba in a way. I mean we've talked about Mayfield a lot on this channel since we started, and even Filk at times had gushed about him, and he wasn't himself. I mean he was downright bad last year. And then at the end of the season, Marc, I don't remember, came out, he broke his foot on literally the first day of the season. The first game of the season, he broke his foot, and he tried to play through it, and he had a lot of complications with it, and now it makes sense looking back on it because he just wasn't good last year. So hopefully now with that rectified, he can go back to being the reliable Scott Mayfield that Islanders have come to know. But yeah, him being healthy will certainly make a difference, at least a little bit.
Yes, then, and that is going to help. Well, again, when we talk about comparing, I just want to clear up Scott Mayfield for a second, and because we said his name in the same breath as Jacob Trouba. Jacob Trouba is making double what Mayfield is making. And losing Mayfield isn't, say, the hindrance of. Look, I have my opinions on Jacob Trouba. Let's just say not a lot of them are positive anymore, because. But we'll save the Jacob Trouba talk for later. Like we said, we're going to be talking a lot of the Islanders right now and going around the league, as Filk is going to come in, and we're going to do the Rangers questions when he's on at about 5:40. But Anthony, you gotta believe that Horvat is gonna duplicate that 30-goal season again, which he was able to do for 2 straight years.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna get Bo Horvat. He's not gonna score 50 goals like the pace he was on when the year the Islanders acquired him. But he's a 35, 70 point player. That's and that's really good. So him and Barzal are going to ride shotgun on that top line again. Anthony Duclair is likely going to round out that top line with the left wing spot. But yeah, Bo Horvat has been a fantastic pickup by the Islanders. People can say Lou Lamoriello, hasn't acquired like an elite player, but Bo Horvat is a legitimate top line player. That's a big splash. Lou Lamoriello made a big splash when he acquired him, right before the All-Star game that year. So I think he was a fantastic addition. And hopefully he could score 30 goals or even more. 35 would be nice. He scored 33 last year. Obviously 40 would be gravy. But yeah, I think it's Barzal and Horvat are going to be the Islanders' 2 offensive leaders this year. I think no doubt about that.
Anthony, Angie's asking right here, what are your thoughts on Wahlstrom?
So I thought he was going to be gone this offseason, and I think a lot of people around the league and Islander fans thought the same thing. Lou Lamoriello even made a comment on Wahlstrom at some point in the offseason and said that he would try to find him a new home, but at the same time he wasn't going to give him away. So to me, the fact that he's still here and the Islanders re-signed him showed that the offers that Lou was getting on Wahlstrom that he felt wasn't nearly good enough, so he held on to him. And listen, we kind of said it about Wahlstrom going into last season, but I think this season is truly make or break on Oliver Wahlstrom here. If he is indeed on the opening night roster, where does he fit in? I guess, third line with Engvall and Pajot. That's really the only place for him. He's not going to play over Duclair, and likely he's not going to play over Siplikov either, unless Siplikov happened to be a total just waste in training camp. Then that's the only way I think that would happen. So for me, I would say Wahlstrom, it's either third line or he gets waived or he gets traded. Because I still think that's possible too. Mind you, when the Islanders re-signed Wahlstrom to the whatever he got, 900,000 or whatever, or million, whatever it was. I have to look it up quick, but it put the Islanders over the cap by 950,000. So if he does stay on the roster, they're going to have to move someone else to get cap compliant. Maybe that's Hudson Fasching. So that's a move that could happen, but I'm still not convinced he's going to be on the roster. But if he is, like I said, this is his year to prove that, he can play at the NHL level.
I think Anthony, in my opinion, if given the choice between Hudson Fasching and I saw it too. I didn't want to alert you to that, Anthony.
I heard it. Yeah.
If given the choice between Hudson Fasching and Oliver Wahlstrom, I think you have to go with Hudson Fasching. He's proved that he could do it. At least a better game at the NHL level, and I just don't know what to make out of Wahlstrom anymore. I think it's a marriage that just needs to end. I think the Islanders and Wahlstrom need to go their separate ways. They're not the only New York hockey player that I think about that with. There's a couple other ones, but it's something that it's just something I look at him and go, I don't know where he fits with the New York Islanders anymore.
When he scored 12 goals in only 44 games in his first really somewhat of a full season, I thought that, this guy, he could shoot the hell out of the puck. He might score 30 goals one year. And then the following year, he scored 13 goals in 73 games. So actually the season where he had 12 and 44 was better. But even that season, you're like, all right, 13 goals, this is a guy that's kind of on his way. And then, then he injured the knee. And then ever since then, I feel like his development stalled. So we all know he could shoot the puck. I mean, he could shoot the puck really well. And he's got hands. The problem is, I think his compete level at times, and his play away from the puck. So hopefully for him, it's really going to click with him this year, because I think this is his last chance. At least with the Islanders, it is.
Anthony, what player do you have your attention on with the Islanders right now?
Well, aside from some of the obvious ones that we talked about, like Siplikov, to see kind of who he's going to be, what Duclair is going to bring. I'm looking right at JG Pageau. Pageau was another guy that was in a lot of trade rumors. I mean, a lot of Islander fans thought that he was going to be the guy that Lou was going to move to kind of free up some cap space. Because his play, he picked it up a little bit at the end of the year, but overall, his play has dropped ever since he hurt his wrist in the bubble during one of the playoff runs. But he's got to be better. And obviously, if you would talk to him, I'm sure he would tell you that he knows that. So he's still here, so he's going to be their third line center. And he's going to be important to the team, because listen, he is a guy that when acquired, he was a shutdown guy, but he also had offensive skill. I mean, he was able to score goals. So I think the year the Islanders traded for him, I think he had 24 goals that year combined with the Islanders and the Senators, if I'm correct. I have to go back and look at that. So
you are correct. Actually, it's 24.
So he has a pedigree.
Sorry,
he has a pedigree of being able to score, and ever since the Islanders acquired him, he was fabulous. And then, as I mentioned, he hurt himself in the bubble, and then ever since then, his play has tailed off a little bit. So I think he's going to be super motivated to try to play at a higher level. And if he can, that would go a long way for the team.
Anthony, I just want to clarify a little bit more for just going those numbers. He had 24 goals in 60 games with Ottawa that year. People forget he had 2 goals with the Islanders in the 7 games that he played. I think they were both against the Rangers, if I recall correctly. But
his first game was against the Rangers, and he scored.
Yeah, so it's not like he was with the Islanders for 20 games and scored 2 goals. No, he didn't have that much of a chance because the league shut down right away. That was back when the COVID thing happened. Yeah. How is now looking at the defense? Do you just run the same pairings right back out there? Is it still just going to be Pelech and Pollock, or is there a need to separate?
Oh yeah, that's what I think you're going to do. You have the same 6-7 guys coming back as Samuel Bolduc as the 7th defenseman. So Yeah, Pellick, Pollock, Romanov, Dobson, and Riley Mayfield. I think that's clearly your starting six, unless something wacky happened before the season started, which we know in the form of a trade or injury or whatever. But that's their starting six defensemen, and it's a good group. It's not bad. I mean, that you have an elite offensive defenseman, Noah Dobson. Ryan Pollock and Adam Pellick are still very, very good defensive defensemen. Riley was a great waiver claim, moves the puck well, speed.
Mm-hmm.
You have Scott Mayfield, and then Romanov, who took, in my opinion, he took major strides this season. He was, he was pretty good when Pellick and Pollock got hurt. Him and Dobson really, really carried the Islanders' defense. So, that's their six. It's a formidable group, and as you saw last year under Lane Lambert, he had them jump in the play offensively, and you saw it early on. I think Patrick Waugh is still going to have them try to be aggressive, pinch more, try to keep the puck in the zone, and be more active in the offensive zone. So, I think their group is good enough to win with. It's just about staying healthy because, Pellick and Pollock, again, they both suffered, significant injuries and missed a lot of time last season.
Now, one story that I did mention earlier was you had Matt Barzal getting back to 80 points. Did that cement to you that he was an elite player, or was he just not getting the recognition he deserved?
Yeah, I mean, despite his lack of or high end point production prior to this last year, my opinion of him never changed. He's an elite player, and I would guarantee you, if you'd poll the 30 other one general managers and ask them, do you want Matt Barzal on your team? They're all going to raise their hand. They're going to be like, yeah, let me have him. The guy
Really,
was
Peter Chiarelli would like a do-over on that.
Yeah, that's true. But the guy was stifled in a Barry Trotz defensive system. I mean, you saw it his rookie year with Doug Weight, 85 points. It's no coincidence. The next year, Barry Trotz comes in and his production starts going down. Patrick Waugh comes in and he's an 80-point player again. I'm not a rocket scientist, but the proof's in the pudding there. So yeah, just the way he skates. I mean, aside from Connor McDavid, he's hands down the fastest skater in the league. I mean, he even won the fastest skater competition a couple of years ago. As far as edge work, I mean, he's got some of the best edge work in the league. His hands, he's got phenomenal hands. He's got all the tools. And the only thing you can say is, which Filk has mentioned before, he may not be the smartest player, the headiest player, but you combine his skill set, he's an elite player. Is he a 100-point player? No. But you don't have to be a 100-point player to be considered an elite player. He's an electrifying player. He makes stuff happen. He can make you look silly. He can blow by you. And he's easily the Islanders' best offensive player. And again, if you paired him with Artemi Panarin or, Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews, a true elite player, you would see Matt Barzal's point production go way up. And I'll stand by that any day.
And also, I think it's no surprise that his production has gone up, where you got Bo Horvat just finding dead spots, and he's able to get Barzal to get him some passes and grind out some play. And I think that's where Duclair is going to come in. That is it going to be more of a speed thing, or are they going to try to get Siplikov up there? That's why I'm curious what they're going to be. What was that last one? Status of Iowa said
Matt Barzal played with Leo Komarov for the longest time on the line. That just goes to he never had sufficient wingers. And now he's got a legitimate goal scorer in Bo Horvat, and it's no coincidence that his points went up.
Yeah, and Kyle Palmieri, he's going to be healthy the rest of this year.
I mean, you can never
been a bit of an issue.
You can never predict health. That's a factor that no one can really truly project. But Kyle Palmieri was great for the Islanders last year, and they needed him to be. He scored 30 goals. I think that was the first time he reached 30 since he was with New Jersey or Anaheim.
It was actually the Devils.
Yeah. So, Palmieri is an important piece to that second line with Nelson. Again, he's a guy that's got a good wrist shot. He's very strong on the puck, and the Islanders are going to need him to replicate his season from last year.
Yeah, because Anthony, when he's in the lineup for the Islanders, he produces 69 games in 21-22, 15 goals, 18 assists, 33 points. 55 games the year after, 16 goals, 17 assists, 33 points. And you get to last year, 82 games. He's healthy, 30 goals.
Yeah.
So, and of course, that game against the Bruins was stuff of legend when he had the natural hat trick.
That was a good game.
I forgot. Did you go to that game?
No, I wasn't at that game. No.
That would definitely be a good one. Let's see if we got a couple more comments.
One thing too, when you're talking about the Islanders, it's important to mention that they have. Now that Linus Ullmark is gone from Boston and it's not Ullmark Swayman.
Mm-hmm.
Sorokin Varlamov is probably the best tandem in the league.
I would probably say so.
Semyon Varlamov is a guy who could be a starter on some other teams in the league. He was great. I mean, look at his save percentage, Mark. If I'm correct, I'm pretty sure he had the fourth best save percentage in the NHL last season.
I'll get you that number on that one.
So,
go ahead, Anthony. Keep going.
You're saying goaltending is very important, and there were a lot of years where Islander fans were saying, "Oh, they should have traded Varlamov. They should have third. There you go. They should have traded Varlamov. They should have traded Varlamov." How many teams have the luxury where if your number one goalie gets hurt or is having an off year, you could tap the guy on the bench and he's going to come in and he's going to post the third highest save percentage in the league. I mean,
that's a bit of a strange thing, Anthony, and I think that's one of those that's one of those things that he also works well in the Patrick Waugh coach system and style. So that's one thing that greatly helps the New York Islanders. And we're going to bring in the third part of the Triforce, the hockey Triforce, Mr. John Filkowski coming on in. Filk, how the hell you been?
Busy.
How's it going, Filk?
What's going on?
Filk, is that a Whaler shirt you're wearing?
Yes.
Nice.
Oh, you got yours in, Anth?
So yeah, I ordered the hoodie, like I said, and I guess they send you this complimentary 13 rally towel.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, nice little touch.
Yeah, sad story.
Oh yeah, definitely. We talked about that at the top. His services this past Monday, and how touching it was to see his teammates there, and Sean Monahan, his wife singled out Sean Monahan and Kevin Hayes and just thanked them both for being such good friends to him, and it really tugged at your heartstrings. It really tugged at your heartstrings.
It's funny because on Monday Night Raw, they were in Calgary. Obviously, Bret Hitman Hart.
I saw that tribute.
Greatest import, and they honored him there. Superstar Sami Zayn came out in a Johnny Gaudreau jersey, and he's a Canadian. Not only that, but Jackie Redmond obviously did a very nice tribute, and you could obviously tell that it's tough for her to get through that. You could hear it in her voice, you could see it in her face. But yeah, it's just don't drink and drive, people. Just don't. It's not worth it. I know people who have lost people to drunk drivers, and it's terrible. I mean, Marc, you deal in an industry that it can, and you're and I know how you are with people. I know that you're on top of people, and you serve, but you're also very responsible. I've seen you in action. And I know how much you hammer home how important it is to not get behind that wheel and take a damn Uber home. So, yeah, and I like this post here. You can't afford to take a taxi. You can't afford to drink.
Yeah.
That's pretty much that's pretty accurate. If you can't afford an Uber or anything to get home, then
you shouldn't be going out and getting shit-faced 10 beers deep, because 10 beers is going to cost more than that Uber.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And that's just a rough one. Filk, just before we transition to do the Rangers, I want to get your thoughts on this one, because I went through the 5 questions for the New York Islanders. I still think this is the number one question. What do you think a full season of Patrick Roy is going to be like?
But Filk, before you start, I got to hop off. I got to take Ella to her open school night. So I will see you guys.
All right.
Have a great rest of the show, and I'll talk to you gentlemen later.
All right.
Take it easy, man. Have a fun night. So just before we do the Rangers, what's your thoughts on Patrick Roy and what his imprint could be on the first full season?
I think a full off season to adjust can help. I don't know if I'm fully convinced that he's a great coach or the right coach for the team. I think the jury's still kind of out there. Really, my concerns are that the penalty kill really didn't improve much under him. The defensive play didn't improve a lot under him. There were some injuries, but they didn't really do anything to improve the defense on the roster. The offense, I still think they're going to be middle of the pack. I mean, Duclair, I guess he's a help, but I don't know if he's a true difference maker, if you will. Who knows? Maybe he finds some sort of new level with Barzal and Horvat. I've been saying for 15 years now that they've needed a sniper to go with, on their top line, like a full on, like a top level guy who's capable of scoring 40 plus per year, not a guy that's capable of 40 in his best year and then doesn't come close again, like an Anders Lee or a Jason Blake or someone like that.
Like somebody like Zygmunt Palffy.
Yeah, we're talking about a guy that like was a lock for 40. Like Zygmunt Palffy was this team's last like real like true elite offensive threat of a superstar outside of John Tavares. This question, we had this conversation a few episodes back. I don't remember exactly which episode it was on, but it was
a month, I think.
Within the last month or so, I would say, yeah, that sounds about right. But he doesn't put up the numbers that a Gusev or a Tarasenko or a Kaprizov or a Morozov or a Sashinsky or someone like that, like one of those true, or Radulov, someone who put up like insane numbers in the KHL. So I don't know how much you can really pencil him in for. With that said, I do think that unlike Gusev and Shipachyov and some others, where the game may not translate over here, I think he could probably be a safer bet for a higher floor, just because I feel like if he doesn't work out as a scorer, like a top 6 type scorer, I do think he could either be a middle 6 or a bottom 6 type scorer and be a guy that gets some dirty goals in front of the net. I don't think he's a dynamic skater, but I don't think he's a bad one either. And I don't see him as a player that generates offense on his own. I feel like he's going to work best when he has someone who can facilitate on that line with him. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't I don't know. I don't see it the same way. Maybe it's the lack of fanfare and hype as opposed to the other, that the others had. But it was like pretty well known that a lot of these guys that I mentioned, like Kaprizov and Radulov and stuff like that, they were, and even Tarasenko, they were considered like the best players in the world outside of the NHL when the fanfare was going on with them. Siplikov isn't nearly regarded in the same light as those guys were. So I would temper expectations. If he gives you 20-20-40 as a rookie, you take that and you run. And that would be really good for them.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I sometimes keep going back to the notion of that he might end up with Barzell and on that line, but we'll see about that one. Filk, we're going to transition because, of course, the man who right here is the host of the Final Buzzer with John Filkowski, because it wouldn't be my name on there if it's John Filkowski. It's going to be him. We're going to go talk about the Rangers and some of the burning questions that we have. And Filk, let me start off with one of the ones that I have, which is, can Alexei Lafreniere make a significant jump without power play time? Technically, power play 1. Let me rephrase that.
Let me ask you something. I'll answer your question by asking you, what did he do this past year?
He did take that jump, and he had a 10-goal month of March. That helped.
So to answer your question, he made a significant jump without power play 1 time.
Mm-hmm.
Can he make another? Yeah, definitely, because he's coming into his own game. I definitely think that I personally would change up power play. I know, top 5 unit. How do you change up a top 5 unit? You're telling me that unit can't be better? Too bad, David. Just did. Deal with it. So, but yeah, he made a significant jump, and I do think he should be on power play 1. But yeah, he can. He proved it. He proved it this past year that he can, and he could definitely do it again. If you think that he's just a 57-point player without power play time, I don't know what you're watching, but he was the best player against the Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
Either him or Trocheck. They were the 2 best players against Florida. So, and no, I wouldn't take him off that line. You don't move him off that line. Why tinker with the one line that is consistently good, that gives you consistent offense? I understand that the downfall to them is that there's just no defense on that line because neither Panarin or Lafreniere are good defensive players. But if you have the puck 80% of the time, 85% of the time, and you're producing offensively, then why do you need to worry that much about defense? You're going to have the puck a lot more than not.
Phil, 100% on that. I think that when you got the people that are trying to say that Lafreniere is going to be a 40-goal scorer, I got a bridge to sell you.
He could be.
He could be, but
the hands to do it.
He does. But Phil, if that's the case, there's power play 1 time in there, and he gets on that lineup, which, by the way, is a good thing for Ranger fans. It's that the Rangers are kind of stuck with this power play philosophy of you get the 5 guys, you play them the majority, 75% of the power play at all time. Yeah, you look at the Panthers last year, there's a lot of lessons they need to learn from the Panthers, and I'll get to that in a minute. But as Steven has said, and Steven, we got to have you on for a roundtable discussion soon. But Riley Smith is the key to the team's success. He makes top line work, or he doesn't. And if he doesn't, it'll be another year with the Wonder Twins going MIA 5v5. It's funny Steven said that, Filk, because can Mika Zibanejad produce 5-on-5? Look, we know what you get out of Chris Kreider, and we know what you're getting. But Mika Zibanejad, I kind of narrow down and go, that's the guy that needs to produce more 5-on-5. Your thoughts?
Yeah, he's got to bounce back from that. I don't know if he can have as bad of a year as he had at 5-on-5 this past year. I can't see it. I can't. He's too talented. but something went on. I don't know if it was the birth of his firstborn, adjusting to being a father. It's got to change. And they brought in Riley Smith to help out, I think, with that. I think you're going to see him on line one. I will say this. The best thing that can happen to this team is that Kaapo Kakko has an offseason where he sees, oh, no, they're bringing in Riley Smith. Mm-hmm. This is my last chance. And if I don't beat this guy out, then I'm probably out of New York. So,
yeah.
And then Kaapo Kakko breaks out and Riley Smith goes to line 3.
Yeah, because for starters, Juraj Slafkovsky and Niels Höglander and Anthony Cirelli all outscored, and Frank Petrano all outscored because Zibanejad at 5-on-5 or at even strength. So he needs to pick up the pace. And then the thing is, you look at what he brought, Filk, with the Rangers versus Washington, and also at times with Carolina, because he was a factor at the beginning of the series versus Carolina. And as Steven's saying right here, Trocheck and Smith were each other's most common line mates. They last year together with the Panthers. I wonder if Lavi puts them together. Could be. And maybe that moves Lafreniere to line 1. We'll see about that one. Filk, they had, and we got a bar talk topic about this soon enough. They got to figure out who this right wing is going to be. Can't have a revolving door of right wingers. So they need to figure out who's going to go on that line, how to get them better 5-on-5, because in the playoffs, that's one reason why they're inconsistent, because they're not good on even strength. And then you lose Chris Kreider for most of the game until he does I want to say a reappearing act like he did in Carolina, which was one of the most epic performances by a Ranger in the third period in a critical game, in a game 6 of that matter. But you need those guys to be stronger throughout the game. You definitely can't have Mika Zibanejad going goalless in the conference finals and Chris Kreider only having 1. And as Matt is saying right here, unless I see some significant skating improvements from Kakko in the preseason, then I won't have any faith in him going into the season. He needs to start getting to the middle of the ice more. I agree with him on that. What do you think, Phil?
That last part is really the key there. It's attacking the middle, and because we've seen him do it at times, he just needs to do it more consistently. Skating is definitely as I've said this in the past too. Skating is an issue with him, but so is confidence. So if he starts to just put that together, that could be the key towards him getting to that next level offensively and becoming a player, or even like something close to the player that they drafted at 2nd overall 5 years ago.
It's a little bit off the topic that we're on. It goes back to the one we were at before, but Filk, I couldn't help but notice this in February when Kakko came back and Lafreniere started clicking. He figured out something. He was starting to improve. You saw it, the eye test, the best stretch of Kakko's play going in there. I look at, there was a game in Philadelphia where both of them were really kind of letting their presence be known. Lafreniere had a goal. Kakko comes on the next shift, hits the goalpost, and you kind of saw a good stretch out of Kakko for a little bit, and then he disappears. Confidence is a huge factor with him. You can't have Kaapo Kakko and his confidence be like my golf game and my driver. So he's got to figure out what that role is, and he's got to decide if he wants to be a New York Ranger, because that's the best way to say it with him. Yeah. Look, speaking about players and roles, one guy, his role is going to be changing. We can debate on this. It's definitely going to be changing. And the thing is, he even predicted it. What will Jacob Trouba's role be next year, with Braden Schneider likely getting more time with Keandre Miller?
It's got to be third pairing right defense. There's no other answer to this. If it's anything other than that, then I really wonder what direction this team wants to go in. But you can't have him at anything beyond third pairing the way he played last year, unless he completely outplays Schneider and then starts to look like the Jacob Trouba of 2019 Winnipeg, then I mean,
good luck.
Yeah, good luck with that, obviously. But yeah, I don't see how he can be anything other than third pairing right defense. I think this is his last year here. I just hopefully there would be somebody who, I mean, hopefully he gives you the best that he can give you. That's really all you can hope for. But I can't say that my expectations are for high or at all. Like you're looking at a player who's maligned for terrible play throughout the year and then even worse play in the postseason. So just please be a passable NHL defenseman and just stay on that third pairing, and then we'll have to revisit his name, once July 1st comes around, or even maybe it's even June 2025 by the entry draft. Maybe they're looking at trading him then.
Phil, they cannot play Jacob Trouba in critical moments anymore.
They can't.
Sorry, you can't. You guys have heard me talk about this all summer, but that game 4 penalty kill, when he went all the way out to the boards and he was above the faceoff box when Sam Reinhart scored. That is a tic-tac-toe play. You go winger, defenseman down low, back up to the slot, and it's in. And before everybody goes, well, what other teams could execute that? That's a basic for the 1-3-1 format right there, where they have the line going across. It looks like a cross on there. The Czechs executed that brilliantly for years. I'm going only back to 1998 with that. I'm sorry, but Phil, this is no. And then the Sam Bennett. I don't want to hear about his injury history or what was going on, because if anything, you're more cautious, not anything else. The fact of the matter is they need to put more time on Braden Schneider and get more from him, because if it's
already think that he's already shown that, though. He's already shown that he deserves it. He's actually played well. I mean, he's developing. He looks like he's developing, following the trajectory that we all thought. I actually think he's a little further ahead than I thought he'd be right now, actually, to tell you the truth. I don't see how Trouba wrangles back second pairing from Braden Schneider at this point.
This is what makes me nervous about that, Filk. This is what makes me nervous. And you think about game 1 versus Carolina. The Rangers had, Keandre Miller is playing a lot better without Trouba. You're right about that one, Mike. But game 1 against Carolina, they had a 4-2 lead. Carolina makes it 4-3. And now it's kind of, all right, they're on the heels the last 90 seconds. What does Laviolette do? He pairs Trouba with Miller. And then he does it for a few more games. There's a temptation, especially with a veteran coach, to go to your veterans. This ain't the time anymore.
But that all right, so I get what you're getting at there, but if you fast forward to the next series, he broke them up and put Trouba right back on the third pairing when he realized it wasn't working against Florida.
Yeah, and hopefully Zach Jones will be a better compliment to him than Eric Gustafson is. And if Rangers Report is listening right now, I'm on the train with Zach Jones now. As Steven's saying right here, Jacob Trouba playing defense reminds me of Bilbo Baggins. I'm going on an adventure. It's funny.
But you know what? Knowing that you're a Lord of the Rings guy and the Hobbit, it's just kind of funny. But this was the one really that I meant to highlight. Was just I wanted to bring this up while it's fresh.
Yes.
No, I don't think he's shot. He's 21. Brennan Hoffman.
No, he's not shot.
He's not shot. I don't understand how you could say he's shot if he doesn't make the team. He's 21 years old, Chris. Come on.
I know what he means by that. It's sort of like what it's going to be, but the real answer.
His follow-up is that, though. You can't.
Yeah.
See, we can't put arbitrary. I don't know how to say this, just because there's just been so much, back and forth and prattle with the whole developmental issues And it's why I don't really like the Marc Stahl hire for a development position, especially when you've had two others that you've hired that are former players that had little to no experience in the position. They haven't done well. But why are we putting arbitrary timelines and on players to develop and be developed and be at certain stages by this point? Like, why are we really comparing Matthew Robertson to Brendan Othman, a second-round pick, to a first-round pick?
It's not the same thing. And the other thing also is Robertson still hasn't taken that jump himself. The real guy you kind of cast your gaze on is Puckdoku, because Alexei Lafreniere answered the question. He's a guy that could play in this league. When it comes to Brendan Othman, Puckdoku is one of the jobs that he's going to be looking to take. So is Perot, who might get in there. That's sort of where you start looking at guys.
I wouldn't expect anything from Gabriel Perot this year.
No, I'm not. The near future, Filk, I'm saying.
No, yeah. So I just be careful with that. We need to stop putting timelines on players. This organization has had so many issues with development over the last 5+ years, and we're going to put arbitrary timelines on players now. I just don't see how that helps anything or anyone.
Yeah, it would not be a smart idea to do that. Now, on the other hand, one thing this organization has done well developing defensemen and goaltenders. And Igor Shesterkin going into the last year of his deal, Filk, what is going to be his future?
If he wants $12 million.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't understand how this organization can go and make the same mistake they made with Henrik Lundqvist and give him an insane contract and not be able to build up a team around him in the cap era. Like I'm not like Igor Shesterkin, great goaltender, best goaltender in the league, but you're going to pay $12 million for a player that doesn't play all 80 games. And not only that, but you're going to pay $12 million for a player that has had one great year and has had a couple of other years that have been kind of up and down. I mean, listen, if he was Dominic Hasek, where he's consistently ripping off 40 wins or 35 to 40 wins, he's winning MVPs back-to-back years, not even just Vezinas, but MVPs, Hearts in back-to-back years. Like, I can understand like the argument for paying him $12 million at that point. Like, we're talking about a guy that has the ability to go down as one of the greatest goaltenders of all time at that point. But we're talking about a guy who had one amazing year, and a couple of years that were good, but they were up and down. And I'm not trying to discredit Igor, but no goaltender is worth $12 million. I'm sorry. It's not the case. And if you go and give him that $12 million, you're going to have a very hard time building up and maintaining a winner around him, because this just complicates so many things. And not only that, but that is a dangerous contract to give a player that has already shown you that he can be here or here any given year. It is a very, very dangerous contract.
Yeah.
So, and that's not even factoring in the whole, Stanley Cup winners in the cap era not needing elite goaltending to win. Because really, outside of Vasilevsky,
Tim Thomas,
and Tim Thomas. All right, I got to give it to Tim Thomas. He was a 2-time Vezina winner. Fine. Tim Thomas, Vasilevsky, Bobrovsky, and then, Jonathan Quick. What other elite goaltenders have really won a Stanley Cup and were elite at the time that they won?
It's great the way you phrase that, because you have to say elite at the time they won. A lot of people will throw out Marc-Andre Fleury.
He won it years after he won his last Stanley Cup. And his last Stanley Cup, he was the backup for.
Yeah, they couldn't get him out fast enough. And the worst, like the worst thing Ottawa did was chase Fleury from the net in game 3 of the 2017 Eastern Conference Finals, because they probably would have won that series. Look, and again, it's no disrespect to Marc-Andre Fleury, who is one hell of a goaltender, but he wasn't an elite goaltender at that time. There was the old joke about nice try, but I dodged your shot again. Phil, it's a great thing to say, because what would you rather do? Would you rather have one Igor Shesterkin or get 2 more defensemen that are at that same price tag, and then maybe spend that money from Jacob Trouba somewhere else? The problem for the New York Rangers is, even more so, we talked about this a little bit with Brock Nelson. The New York Rangers are going to be in playoff positioning. And if they don't know what's going on with this contract, when the trade deadline comes around, because then you're going to have to ride it out with them then, because goalies don't get traded at the trade deadline anymore. It simply does not happen. It barely happens when goalies get moved mid-season.
He's probably getting re-signed. I can tell you right now, they're probably going to give into whatever contract demands that he has, because they think that they're not going to be able to win without him. I would be shocked if this organization and Chris Drury had the balls to not re-sign Igor Shesterkin, because they're not going to trade him at the deadline, because they're going to go for a cup with him. This is why I continue to say, and I know that I have people on here and people on my Twitter and other social media that say, oh, young Chris Drury is going to go bargain basement hunting again. I don't think so. I think he knows that he has to absolutely go all in at this deadline and go get whatever big fish are out there. So that's why I don't want to hear anybody complaining about PTOs. Why didn't you sign LeBanc to a PTO? Why didn't you sign this guy to a PTO? Why didn't you go get this guy? Because that deadline has to have the most space possible to go get the big guys. Because if you're going to complain about that, then you can't complain about him not having space at the deadline to work with, because he has to accrue. He has to accrue. This has to be the year that he makes the biggest splash possible, because after this year, that window is going to start to close unless they let Igor go, have a goaltender come up, or sign a lesser goaltender, and then make other moves to keep the team competitive.
Yeah, they're going to clear off. If that happens, they'll clear off absolutely Trouba's contract and Shesterkin's, because Filk, the last question still has to be said. Did the Rangers learn anything from the Florida series?
That remains to be seen. I mean, I really can't tell you anything until the season starts, until we get to the play. I don't think you can answer that question until we get to the playoffs.
Yep.
I really don't. Because the issue is the big guys. Are they going to show up? Is Zibanejad going to show up? Is Kreider going to be more than a ghost against Florida? Is Panarin actually going to show up? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. If Adam Fox stays healthy, I think they have a better chance of beating Florida, but it didn't help that he was playing on one knee against them. I mean, does Trouba act like a complete caveman and just try to go, oh, meet Trouba, meet elbow and hit everything in sight? Like, I don't understand how, you can answer these questions without getting to that point. That's really my thing. And did they learn? I don't know. They can tell you that they learned. They can say all this stuff to the media. But, they need to start playing with an edge, and they need to be a tougher team to play against, and they need to start playing playoff type hockey. And you have to see it from day one. At least that could be like, okay, maybe they have learned something, but I still can't tell you definitively yes or no yet. But we won't know this answer until next year, until next spring, really.
And the truth is, you won't know it because, look, they have some snarl in their bottom six. I'd like to see more snarl out of that. I'd like to see more Adam Enstrom and Matt Rampy, and not fighting. Or I want to see them playing grinded out type of hockey like the Florida Panthers did, and especially what they did to the New York Rangers. I do ask the question: is Philip Hedl right for this team? at this point. It's not a matter of whether or not you like the player, whether or not you think he's a good person or not. And it's not a matter of his health either. Because if he's healthy, let's say he's healthy 100%, is he really the right center for that third line? Because the Rangers are going to need to start focusing on shutting down the opposition a little bit better. And because then the next question is Kaapo Kakko. Because Will Cooley is definitely going to fit for that personality and that grind it out style. And he's going to have a better season this year. So that kind of leaves you with what improvements they're going to make. And here's the thing. You're right about it, Filk. I don't think you're going to have that answer till the trade deadline. And you look at what the Rangers did last year. They basically played 3 lines, and you could argue 2 for about half the season. And Laviolette was able to get everything he could out of the power play and out of Igor. Well, Igor, as soon as he got his game back. And Jonathan Quick, great job with him. Eric Gustafsson, the month that he filled in, also pretty good that he filled in for Adam Fox I'm referring to. Phil, they need to not only bring that snarl in their bottom 6, they then need to have it be infectious into the top 6. So if Riley Smith is the guy that helps out that top line, then everything works out and it's all good. But if, let's say, like Brennan Ottman or somebody wows them in camp, he goes on the top, that Kreider's advantage headline, and then you get Smith's experience down low, then I think that's a home run for the Rangers then.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's why I said the best thing to happen for this team, and you can actually apply this to Brennan Ottman too, now that I think about it, is that either Kakko or Ottman end up absolutely just hitting that next level. I totally agree with this from Jay. Oh, hi, by the way, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Guts and grit can't be taught this late in someone's career, so I don't know if they've learned anything. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how it is. The one thing I will say is that Modano and Yzerman really learned from Hitchcock and Bowman, respectively. Mm-hmm. So you never know about that.
And there's that Stanley Cup ring on Peter Laviolette's finger. And by the way, he's coached 3 different teams to a Stanley Cup final.
And he's won at least once. And he's one of a handful of coaches to do that. 2 others are probably Hall of Fame. Oh, one of them is in the Hall of Fame. I think the other one is as well. I'm not sure on him, but
Scotty Bowman and Mike Keenan.
Correct. Yep.
There you go. Keenan's not in the Hall of Fame. Not yet.
That's crazy. I can't believe he's not in. But I will say, to your point about Hedl, or actually, I'll finish the point about what I was making. Is that Ottman, if one of Ottman and Kakko take that next step, I mean, that gives the Rangers just more options because it lets you throw Riley Smith on line 3, where he really, really, really where you want him to be if you're considering if you're chasing a Stanley Cup. Yeah. The other thing is that with Hedl, I wonder about him. I don't see him as the shutdown type. That can change. You can learn defense. I mean, hopefully I'm wrong about Hedl, but it would make me wonder if they would, and I think I might have said this before in the past, but it makes me wonder if they would approach Seattle come deadline time if Seattle's out of it and be like, hey, would you want to give us Yanni Gourde for Filip Chytil? And Seattle, being the younger team, looking maybe to get a higher upside player, gives up the veteran, and the Rangers use the veteran because Yanni Gourde would fit this Ranger team the way that they want to play.
Exactly, yeah.
So,
yeah, absolutely. And we're actually going to discuss more about the right wingers in a moment in our NHL Bar Talk. Once again, guys, we're going to be raffling off some of the Big Apple Hockey shirts and one of the jerseys. So start putting in BAH in the comments. I'll start going through them during our Bar Talk segment, and I'll make sure I have everybody that is going to be available for us. First, let's have a message from DraftKings. Hockey fans light the lamp this winter with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. New customers can bet just $5 pregame money line on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. If that wasn't enough excitement, you can turn small bets into bigger payouts with same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets like which team will win, how many goals will be scored, and more for your shot at an even bigger payout. Download the DraftKings Sports app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet $5 on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at the DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN.
Shot. This is the easiest I've ever to answer.
I'm going to say beer. I can't even begin to describe.
I'm actually going to go crazy. I'm going to buy everybody around on this one. I know it's not your favorite song on that, Filk, but it's not going to get copyright struck. So I just wanted to kind of throw a jingle.
Neither was the one that we had.
Yeah, no. I know. It was the one that we had. I kind of mixed it around a little bit. We're going to work on a new theme eventually. But guys, welcome back to Big Apple Hockey's NHL Bar Talk. We're engaging our confidence on NHL topics based on our choice of drink. So confident you buy it around. So I'll have a beer. Oh, dear God. I'll have a shot. Play along down in the comments below. And I'm starting to see some BAHs. I'll start getting on those in a minute. Phil, by my count, and I think I might even be missing a few, the New York Rangers last year used 6 right wingers with Kreider and Zibanejad. I had Cooley. So I had them all listed. It was going to be Cooley, Hedel, Wheeler. I'm blanking on a couple in that right now. Anyway, Kakko, there's 4. Trust me, there's still 2 more. I'll think about them in a minute. With Riley Smith now there and Kakko. Oh yeah, Jack Roslovic.
Jack Roslovic's at 6, yeah.
There's 6. Yeah. So the Rangers will use no more than 3 right wings with Kreider and Zibanejad this year.
Oh, man. All right. At least this is not a layup. Can't have Evan yelling at you to get the GIF. Or the hoop, rather. I'm going to go beer. I do think that there's going to be an experimental point, but I really think that a big part of Laviolette's focus likely has to be who he's going to get out of that line. And there's always injuries and stuff like that, but yeah, I'm going to have to say beer. I think it could end up being more. It's something about that line that needs to change. But at the same time, I think you're going to get better version of Mika Zibanejad this year. So hopefully that'll help it. And I mean, they did bring in Riley Smith for right wing depth, but who knows who's going to start with them. I haven't seen a whole lot in training camp yet, so we don't really have like a hint even to work with. So
I think the short answer is you want it to be 2. You want it to be 2. So unfortunately, I have to go shot on this, Filk. I think it's going to be more than 3. And or if you want to say it like they're going to use more than that. Because if it's Kakko's got a history of injuries. If it's Riley Smith, hopefully that's the case and he's healthy the entire season. But he's a rugged player. Who knows? He might miss a game or 2. If it's Brennan Ottman, who knows if he stays up the entire time? It's a lot of questions like that. It could be Alexei Lafreniere for all we know.
There's the 7th one. Jimmy Vesey was also used.
Jimmy Vesey was the one I kept forgetting. And you know what? I had my notes down. And then I'm like, I can't put it in
for a very short time towards the end of the season.
Yeah. Actually, I think a little bit in December as well. But this is one of those things that I think They want to use less. I can't confidently say it, so we'll move on from there. Filk, one thing we will move on to is one thing I mentioned earlier in the show when we're talking about the Islanders. They had 3 30-goal scorers for the first time since 1994.
Wow.
Yeah. The Islanders will have 3 30-goal scorers again in 24-25.
So it was
Horvat, Nelson, and Palmieri were the 3 goal scorers.
Wow, that's Palmieri is really the one that I'm kind of up in the air about, because that's a big year for him, considering he had one other 30-goal season his entire career. So at his age, I don't know if he gets back to that, because you're really asking him to repeat another career year. And that's tough to ask for somebody in their 30s. I mean, him and Cryer are both with 34. They're the same draft, 2009. So that's a tough ask for Kyle Palmieri. The question really is does Anthony Duclair hit 30? I'm going to go Beer. I have no problem penciling in Horvat or Nelson for 30, especially Nelson. I think his shot is just phenomenal. But the other, Palmieri and Duclair, I could see 20 to 25 from them both easy. Could I see Duclair hitting 30? If he's playing with Barzal and Horvat, yeah, I could see that. But I'm not willing to pencil him in right away. So I'm going to say Beer.
Phil, I'm actually going to go shot on this, and I'm not saying that so it's offensive or anything. They got guys that are capable, obviously, Anthony Duclair and Kyle Palmieri. But one thing I happen to diagram with Anthony is Palmieri's health. And if Palmieri's healthy, he's scoring for the Islanders. He's been a great fit for this team pretty much since the playoffs of his first year. He didn't really fit as well or production-wise in that first little stretch. That was our first year of doing the show together.
Yes.
But but after the playoffs, and he had a great series against the Pittsburgh Penguins and really good against the Boston Bruins, Palmieri really clicked. And you look at his season last year, 30 goals, 82 games. And you hope he's going to be healthy and stable, and that'll really help. But same thing with Duclair. Duclair's had problems with health for a while, and but these guys, if they're healthy, they could probably do it. I just don't have the confidence. I will say this: they're having to. I'll take Horvat and Nelson getting 30 easy, because those guys, they just always seem to be doing that.
It's funny because Palmieri almost matched his 2016 career year with his first year in the Devils, almost stat for stat. 82 games, 30 goals, and then he had 27 assists as opposed to 24 this year. So yeah, very close to his almost exact career numbers.
And who knows what they're going to get out of Siplikov, because maybe that could help them, because they were searching for right-wing consistency too, or left-wing consistency, I think, on that unit. Yeah. One guy that needs to get more consistency is Jonathan Huberdeau, who had 107 points in the last 2 seasons with the Calgary Flames. His last season in Florida, he had 115 points. By the way, Phil, just to say for the record, I'm working on an article on Twitter, questions for each team for the Metro. Same kind of deal with Andrew Mangiapane, who still has not been able to match his goal total from 2 years ago over the last 2 years. Phil, Jonathan Huberdeau is saying how much he's been training, and he likes this new training style he has, but Calgary, it's just not been a good fit for him. Jonathan Huberdeau will never have a 100-point season again.
Oh man, I'm probably gonna have to go around here. I was debating between rounds. I'm sorry. I almost said shot for a second because I thought the question was will Jonathan Huberdeau, but I forgot. It's round. It's round and Beer that I was debating between, but he's 31. He just has not looked himself in Calgary. I don't know if it's a lack of motivation. I don't know what it is with him. I really don't. I do think that getting away from Barkov, who he played with for, what was it, 9 years? 10 years?
Yeah, I believe it was 9. Yeah.
Yeah, it was 9, because he was the Calder Trophy. He was a Calder Trophy finalist in 2013, and no, he was a Calder winner in 2013. Sorry, but then they drafted Barkov in that 2013 draft. The next 9 years, he played with Barkov.
Yeah.
So I get it. When you play with someone for that long and you go away, like you get away from them, but like the drop off is just, it's almost unreal. It's I don't know how to explain that. I really don't, because this is just he's a tremendously talented player. He really is, and it's sad to see. It really is. He was one of the greatest players in the league. And yeah, I get it. Like, a lot of guys were having career years that year, that 21-22 season.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Johnny Gaudreau, he 114 points that year for him. Huberdeau, 115. Matt Tkachuk registered his first 100-point year that year. I mean, Austin Matthews at 60 goals for the first time. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't want to say it was like a scoring spike year, because I don't think it was, but I can't see Huberdeau getting close to 100 again. I really can't. I mean, I think if you're at this point, if you're Calgary, you take him getting back to being a point per game player, you call that a day.
Yeah, I don't want to say round. I really don't, but I think I'm going to have to go round on this. And yeah, I know there's a bit of a hot take, but here's the thing. Scoring 100 points is really difficult in this league. If you got him back to 85, that's good enough. And even in Calgary, when this deal went through, Filk, I thought no harm, no foul. Calgary somehow was able to compensate for the loss of Gaudreau. Jonathan Huberdeau does not fit anything that they're doing in Calgary. And that's something that both the player and the team would love to try to figure out a way to move on from this. It's so hard. It really is. And like Huber, to his credit, Huberdeau has still just been saying, I'm going to get back to where he was. Because I know everybody had a little bit of trepidation on the money Kadri was getting, but he had 75 points last year.
Yeah, Kadri lived up to his billing. I honestly thought the change from Sutter to Ryan Huska, former Ranger hand there, would have been really something good for them, but it really hasn't done anything.
Their transition game, I think it was, where they kind of activate their D. That's what they had in Florida. And Huberdeau, it just always fit like a glove for him. Just not as much. Just not as much with this. So, I mean, I really hope he bounces back, because he's a hell of a player. So, I'll be honest, I'm kind of rooting for him. Filk, one last one, and then we'll go to some other topics, because I had some ones from last week that are still in here. But Filk, another guy that needs to bounce back is Trevor Zegras. He had 15 points last year after 2 60-point seasons. But he's on an Anaheim team that's steadily improving, and everybody needs to have a little bit of patience. But Trevor Zegras will notch 70 points this year.
I don't know about 70. I do think he's going to get back to that 60-point mark, though. I really do think that he's going to get back there. He only had 15 points, but you kind of left out some context there. Only 31 games. So he was about a point every other game. So that's 40 over 82. I think he's getting back to 60. I don't know about 70. 70 would be a career high. But I do think that this team is going to be better than what they were last year, this Anaheim team. You're getting year 2 of not only Pavel Mitnikov, but Leo Carlson as well. You're getting another year of Mason McTavish. I mean, you already have Zegras and Terry. They have pieces. And Jamie Cutter Gauthier could end up being coming up this year and being one of the guys that's a front runner for the Calder. They have pieces. I like the way they look going forward. They just need, I would say, a legitimate top pairing defense prospect going forward, and another one who could probably play somewhere in the top 4. And I think this team is going to be a juggernaut in the future. They are a scary looking team going forward. So I like what they have. I do think Zegras will bounce back. I just think a lot of it was he was hurt. I think there was just a lot of controversy as well, because I think the last offseason we had that fun little discussion about Pat Verbeek not wanting Trevor Zegras. And there was all this stuff going around, and Trevor Zegras is going to get moved. And this was the second offseason in a row where people were wondering, is Trevor Zegras is going to is he going to get moved? And then he's standing next to Chris Kreider in a charity game in the offseason, and people are like, Zegras to the Rangers, it's going to happen. And, and it ended up not happening. So I think he bounces back. And I think this is the last year of the contract, if I remember correctly. So, I think that he would end up being somebody that would be highly sought on the trade market, because he's going to be a restricted free agent. And nope, this is the second year of it. Sorry.
Yeah, I was running to go check that as well. You beat me to it.
Do apologize, but he's got 2 years left on that deal. He has a bounce back year, and Pat Verbeek looks to move him in the next offseason. I mean, there's going to be a considerable haul for him at that point.
So does he not 70? I forgot. Is that a?
No, I'm going beer. I don't know if I can. I don't know if 70 is going to happen, but it's possible. I mean, they have pieces that I think they're going to get better with this year.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go beer on this one as well. I think he gets back to the 60-point mark if he's healthy, and that's for sure. They're a team on the rise, I think. I think they'll start getting stuff together. Who knows? Maybe they finally get pretty decent and they trade John Gibson finally. But it's going to be interesting to see what they're going to be. But again, they're a team that you have to say patience with them, because they're in this for the long haul. So we're going to see about that. And as was brought up, you talk about some of these guys that you're like, oh my God, how old are these guys now? Mace McTavish is 21, Carlson 19, 20, and Zegras is only like 21, or 23. I mean, I think Zegras is, but Troy Terry's only 27. So they still got plenty of time to figure all this out and plenty of time to get their defense working. And they're going to be a much better team in the future. Filk, I was actually going to put in here about somebody submit a bar talk topic. But there was one that I had right here. I just lost it. Okay, here we go. State of Survival is asking, what do you think about Line A? And we did talk about this in our short that we have, but hey,
wait, you were going to that one too? Because I clicked it just before you
said is exactly what I was going for.
Okay, yeah. I don't know about 40. I think 30 is possible. I also think he's a different player now than he was back in his earlier days with Winnipeg, where everyone was just looking to feed him because of that incredible shot. I think 30 is possible. I don't know about 40, though. You never know, though. I mean, what happens, for example, if he starts playing with, I don't know, Slavkovsky or Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield or something like that, and he just ends up absolutely just putting the puck in the back of the net and blowing the freaking nets off the back of him. So I don't know. I mean, I'm going to say if we had to do beer, if we had to do bar talk for this, I'm gonna go beer.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible. I don't see it though. I see 30, maybe even 35, but I do think that he's probably going to be called on to be like the guy on their power play unit. They're going to put him in that spot that he was in previously, Ovechkin's spot, and he's going to be just absolutely blistering one-timers, and they're going to have some good talent around them. Watch out for Lane Hudson this year. I mean, I know he played a couple of games down the stretch where he looked really good offensively, but you could put together a power play of Caulfield, Line, Suzuki, Hudson, and maybe Slavkovsky. That could be a real good unit.
You know, if he's ever healthy, don't forget about Kirby Doc, because he's been productive when he was with the Canadians. I'm actually going to go shot on this, and it's the same one that I said about him. I want to see whether or not Line loves hockey. I think he's got talent. I just don't know if he's got it up here.
Yeah.
So we're going to find out about that one soon enough. So, guys, everybody, thank you very much. Join us on Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk. This was a quick one for us today because there really isn't much to talk about. So it was very difficult to kind of get some extra topics in there. But let's get some names in here. And Filk, did you want to do a Puckdoku while we're at it?
Sure.
All right. So we got some time on that. All right. Let's get the Puckdoku going. And it's gonna be shrimp scampi for me and the lovely Maria today.
Shrimp scampi. I like it.
Yeah. All right. Well, Phil, here's some of the things. We got the Edmonton Oilers. You had a 500 plus penalty minute guy, a St. Louis Blue, a 500 point guy, a Anaheim Duck, and then on the top of the pyramid is a.
Oh, we're doing the pyramid. Okay,
so we're doing
the regular.
Right, yeah, and I gotta get more names on the wheel of names. So, Matt's asking, hey, Phil, you going to go see Megadeth on Saturday?
I am. I'm assuming this is because I started seeing this recently, so I'm assuming this is Matt M. And yes, I will be there. I will DM you after the show probably. So because I'm going to be there. We will be tailgating early. I might even try to see if my friend that I'm going with has cornhole. But yeah, definitely not ready to see you yet. 99 Ways to Die. One of my absolute favorite Megadeth songs on Hidden Treasures. Absolute classic. Hope they play that. I don't think they played that the last time I saw them with Kevin at Jones Beach. So yeah, I saw them like 3 years ago there when the Sick, Dying, and the Dead had like just come out. So yeah, Wake Up Dead. Yes, the guitar solo in Wake Up Dead right after the first chorus. Chef's kiss, just absolutely amazing. Just Chris Poland at some of his very best. Miss Chris Poland and Gar Samuelson together with Megadeth. I thought they were just such an incredible combination. But yeah, I will be there. I will definitely hit you up. We'll talk more. Yes, like, share, and subscribe as well. Definitely spread the virus.
Yeah, and I think about obviously Symphony of Destruction is the one everybody always remembers whenever it comes to them.
Sweating Bullets, Hangar 18, Holy Wars, The Punishment Due, Trust. I mean, I could go through a laundry list of songs of Tout Le Monde, which was basically almost like their answer to Fade to Black.
Yeah.
I
did get to see them with the Big Four. They were all.
You got to go to the Big Four?
I got to go to the Big Four. Yeah.
You.
Bailey, I got you. By the way, DP and State of Survival, I have you guys in for shirts as well.
Train of Consequences. Yeah, another good one from Euthanasia. Euthanasia was underrated album, not their best, but underrated. Those last two albums right before Risk were decent, underrated, but decent. The Disintegrators is actually probably my favorite song on either of those two albums.
And I actually just started adding in everybody that's made comments so far. You know what, David? I'm gonna get you in there too.
Love Faith No More. Love Faith No More.
There was another question, by the way, that was on here too. And we didn't clarify this one because we talked about him a little bit. Terrence asked earlier, what's the temperature on Zach Jones? What are you thinking?
I think he's playing third pairing alongside Jacob Trouba.
I agree with you.
He's going to be the puck mover on that pairing. He looked too good last year to keep him down in the minors. If you're going to keep him in the minors, just trade him. Just trade him. What's the point?
And I got to tell you, Filk, I was on record saying I'm not sure if he's an NHLer. I thought size was going to be an issue, and I didn't think he was going to really be as integral to the Rangers' future. But Filk, you know what? You look at what he did coming out of when Trouba was injured. He looked great. He looked absolutely great. So
yeah, I definitely think that he should be. I think that's part of the reason why they didn't go out and get another defenseman for that pairing. And I would imagine by that notion, they're going to be sticking with him. Yeah, and this is actually a good point from David here. He's the same size as Fox. Now, I've always said that Jones reminded me when I watched him as a Fox light, but a better skater and shooter. He didn't process the game and have the same skill as Fox, but he was a better skater and a better shooter than Fox. And I definitely think Marc left his microphone on, which is just great. So we're gonna
I thought he. Oh
no, I muted you because I thought you were away and you left your mic on, so that's why I went to it. But
I was just off for a second.
Oh man. Megadeth at Hammerstein with Suicidal and Infectious Grooves. Okay. Yeah. Suicidal. I do enjoy Suicidal. Robert Trujillo was with Suicidal Tendencies for a while before he went to Metallica. So, yeah, definitely a Suicidal. Join the Army was one of my favorite Suicidal Tendencies songs and albums. So, yeah, big time SD fan.
Filk, I always love to mention this. My first concert I ever saw, Queensryche Building Empires tour, where they played Operation Mindcrime in its entirety, and their opening act, Suicidal Tendencies. So,
War Inside My Head.
Yeah,
they're just Lights, Camera, Revolution. Just so many freaking good albums and songs from Suicidal. Oh man, obviously Institutionalized. I mean, and funny enough, if you guys are into more like the post-hardcore emo, you gotta give a shit ton of credit to Census Fail, who did an awesome cover of Institutionalized. Amazing. They did a real damn good job for that, and you wouldn't expect it from like an emo sinister band like Census Fail. So check that out if you haven't.
All right, Filk, we need a random Edmonton Oiler.
So I always forget how these work because I don't play them.
It stacks. It stacks. Anthony,
I get that, but like, so I need to have an Oiler, and then we need to have an Oiler that has 600 penalty minutes, and then we need
500,
to have 500, and then we need to have an Oiler that's 500 penalty minutes that was also a blue.
Yes.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
And then it's got to be 500 points, an Oiler and a blue, and then it's got to be all those categories and a duck.
Yeah.
But right now, any random Oiler, I was thinking Fernando Persani.
could do that. You could say Boris Miranov. You could
Todd Marchand.
I feel like you would want to keep him for 500 penalty minutes. He may not actually have 500 penalty minutes though, because he was very light on penalties from what I remember correctly.
All right, so we'll go Boris Miranov since it's a pretty thin one. Still at the 0 uniqueness. An Oiler with 500 career penalty minutes.
Actually, Marchand does have 500 penalty minutes.
Oh, he does? All right, so let's go.
I think he might have even been a St. Louis Blue, though. Hold on. No, he wasn't. Anaheim, Edmonton, Columbus. I knew he was in Columbus, but was Kelly Buchberger a Blue?
That's a good one.
No, he was not.
See, the points are, by the way, the points are after the Blues. That's what's making me think Doug Wade's going to be.
Why I'm hold on. Act that out because I want to see what the next thing is.
All right. Yeah, let's get back to that. And here we go.
Keep Marchand for no, he wasn't.
He's not going to have 500 career points.
No, he is. Todd Marchand's going to have 500 career points.
Really?
But he's not a Blue, though. That's the problem. 500 career penalty minutes would be Todd Marchand if you want to put him there.
All right, let's go. Because he would fit with Anaheim, I know. But not right there. All right. Speaking about which, this is also setting up for Chris Pronger at the top of the list.
Yeah, I feel like this thing is exactly lined up for Chris Pronger because it's all of his teams. It's just in, well, except for Hartford, obviously. But
okay. Blues, could it be Eric Brewer? I mean,
yeah, but I feel like that may be a popular one. But yeah, I don't think Brewer played in Anaheim.
No, but he would still have. He did play in Anaheim, by the way.
He did,
and he does have 500 penalty minutes. So, but he has. Hold on. He only has 271 points. You're better off using him earlier than later.
Yeah, you could use Brewer there.
All right, we'll use Eric Brewer right here. I forgot who the Islanders traded Eric Brewer for. Was that Roman Hamrlik?
Yes, I believe so. That was the 2000 draft.
500 points career.
$500 points career. 500 penalty minutes.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
And a Blue and an Oiler. I feel like Doug Wade is applicable here, but I think that's too obvious.
I think it's too obvious too, but
we're already at a 21, so
yeah. Oh, we are?
Yeah, because Brewer, I told you Brewer was going to be obvious.
All right. Well, here, we'll just go Doug Wade to speed this up a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, so Doug Wade right there.
And funny enough, Doug Wade was also a Duck.
I forget all about that. And oddly enough, he didn't jump up the list on that. I just wonder what's your other choice for either one of these. Is it Rob Niedermeyer?
I don't think Rob Niedermeyer played for Edmonton or wait, did he play in St. Louis?
No, he didn't play for either one.
Yeah, I was about to say. I was going to say Lucas Spiza, but I don't think he played for.
And have 500 career points.
Yeah, that too.
I chose poorly on this one.
Yeah, you did. Wait was not a good selection there.
Yeah.
Wait was definitely not a good selection there. Crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scott Mellenby could have been one we could have used.
Rats. You know what? Let's reset it. So
yeah.
We'll go just to get to the top, because I mean, is there anybody but Pronger up top?
Marchand. I don't know if you want to use Brewer there. There's got to be somebody else we can think
There's
of.
Mellenby right here, right?
Mellenby, yeah. No, hold on.
Still 0 right now.
No, I was going to say you could have used Mellenby there and then used Wait for the Ducks.
Oh. Mellenby played for Edmonton?
Yeah.
All right, my bad.
That wouldn't have worked if he didn't. What the hell, man?
I actually completely forgot Mellenby ever played there.
Yeah, in the very early 90s. So he went from Philly to Edmonton to Florida to Atlanta to St. Louis.
And nobody else but Pronger fits all this, right?
Pronger is the one at the top, yeah.
Let's view the stats. Let's see who else could have gotten it. Well, up here, it's
Wait,
only
who
Pronger.
Did you put Wayne Gretzky in there?
No, this is the popular picks.
Oh, what did you put? I didn't even see. I wasn't paying attention.
Okay. I went with Doug Waite for this one. David Perron was the more popular pick for Anaheim. Gretzky, the number 1 pick out of that. However, we went with Scott Mellenby, which actually was a 1.3.
Show me the rest of the pyramid though that you did.
Absolutely. Hold on. There we go.
Pronger you went with Brewer. I was trying to put somebody else.
Well, we could fix that. All right. Because I am running out of time on this one. That's the only thing.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, we could always wrap it up. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got dinner, so.
Well, yeah. I got dinner coming. It's not letting me go with the stats. So, all right, it's not letting me go back to stats. So, we're gonna have to X out of that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I think I still have everybody that's in here. So we're gonna do 3 shirts, guys, and we'll do the jersey. Actually, we'll do the jersey first. Let's do the jersey.
This is funny because I mean I can tell you right now, Scott Mellenby's best days were in the 90s. So it's funny you say that, but and he got a lot of notoriety for being like the first real like Panthers top guy, you know?
Yeah. And I'll get these out. I'll get these out as soon as possible. It's going to be early next week, guys, but still.
Whoa.
All right. Here we go. I don't got many on the wheel of names, so it's going to be a good set.
Yeah, this is an episode where we don't have a ton of viewers in. Did we do other episodes? were we advertising this, or were we only advertising one episode?
I only just did this episode. I just wanted to kind of get out some shirts to people. Guys, let me know in case if you don't see your name real quick. Gonna wait a minute. Yeah, Mellenby was a hell of a player. Yeah, Thrash was too.
I feel like we're missing regulars though that would be in on this.
Yeah. Don't worry, I got another jersey. I could always do it again another time.
Okay.
So, guys, this is for the Big Apple Hockey red jersey. It's a nice one. So it's not going to have a name on it like I had for John D. Lee last year. That was awesome, but here we go.
He's one we're missing. We're missing him. We're missing like Greg.
We're missing a lot of regulars.
Yeah, we are.
David, there you go.
I wanted the AH jersey, and it. Dermo. Dermo and Anthony. Do they still even do their show?
They haven't been. Dermo's been unavailable, so they got that. All right, let's do 3 of the shirts. I'll get those out to you guys, and let's go with. Cool, Jason. Got a shirt for you.
What's going on, man?
If you can, email to me your address and your size.
Yeah,
right,
I can get that from him too if necessary, because I have his number. I'll text him.
All right. Patrick, hey. Waiting for it to stop. There you go. And we're gonna get one more shirt in right now. We'll do some more giveaways throughout the year, guys. And we'll do one more. All right, one going to Maddie.
Maddie.
All right. So that's Matt, Patrick, and I had it before. Jason, and well, you got it from Jason and David. Yeah. David finally winning something. Yes. Please email me your address. I'll get these out all early this week. And guys, we're gonna wrap it up right here. Next week I'm gonna be out, but the boys should be able to get stuff done. And yeah, it's gonna be a hell of a next 10 days. I cannot wait for that. So State, don't worry, there'll be other days. Trust me. No. I mean, I always like doing this because I always like giving back, because you guys always giving us, and you give us plenty of time. And hell, you give us credibility, because the more people watch, more people like it.
And the viewer counts will definitely go up during the season.
Yeah. And we're gonna do our season previews early this year, because we're gonna get a couple extra weeks with them. So the end of the month, we're gonna do that. DP, the link is actually down below, so check it out. All right. Yeah, there's a link for the eBay store. So yeah, just get that, and I'll get it out to you as soon as possible. All right, guys, everybody, thank you very much for joining us this week. It is always great seeing you and hearing from you, and can't wait to get this hockey season ready to go. This is going to be already a fantastic next 2 months. I can't wait for that. All right, guys, thank you very much. Have a great night.
Take care, everybody.